Man, if there was one Saturday that was not mine, it definitely is this one. Um, I'm gonna try to finish that video on the hooker scenario by the end of this week. So just to kind of relitigate a few things and to go over some stuff. For the last hour, I've had a person come to my house with an unexpected visit, and when they come, they like to walk around and they're very loud. And you don't know if they're going to be heard in the background of what I'm trying to do, just the weekly stream, or if they're going to, you know, try to come in here and say something to me and then mess it up as well. Now, also, because they came to have me close the door behind them, and also because I couldn't really put the computer in a place that was as because I think one of my few things because people online always like talk about me in this nasty manner, but I think one thing I'm pretty decent at is taking care of something. I don't really um the computer I have for 4 years, I dropped or it hit the floor maybe one time in that entire period where I owned it. Um and with this one, it fell because I can't put it all the way up here and because this other person was around. So those two things together. Um But I get really irritated with some of this stuff. I don't know. I'm just so sick of the same old song and dance with a lot of this crap. You put out a video, people barely watch it. You edit it, people still barely watch it. Then because people barely watched it, they want you to repeat what you said in the video to them on the stream. Just like, yeah, that's not the way it's supposed to work. Um, so there was an individual I spoke of about. I think it was last week or the week before that. Basically, this person I started being in their server because the piss court saga never stops. And they have this. They're another one of these people that thinks having a DM call is like the worst thing besides getting a breast cancer diagnosis. They just hate it. They hate sitting with one person to call, you know, for the purpose of getting to know them. And you know, I thought they were really ridiculous because on two separate occasions, the first being a 3 hour long call, they sat in DM calls with me. DM calls I didn't force them to have, DM calls that if they so much didn't want to do, they didn't have to. Um, so this person starts to make excuses because this is what happens when people have hypocrisy. You have to always make sure that they can come up with some reason for breaking their own rules. And what I thought was so funny, and this goes back because I always say that one of the problems I have with modern women is, ironically enough, because people like to say if you don't talk to chicks, you're selfish, or if you don't approach them, you're selfish. A lot of chicks are selfish. And what I mean by that is they do things only to accommodate themselves. And a lot of them never consider the feelings or wants or desires of the people they claim to be friendly toward or want to be friends with, or any type of supposedly fond feeling they claim to have toward you. But just to give you an example, so when I say they're selfish and they do things without any regard for if it affects others, you look at all of these out of birth pregnancies. A lot of that just comes from people not wearing protection, and a lot of chicks having pretty ridiculous reasons to not, to basically run the risk of having a kid over wanting a little bit more pleasure when they, get down and dirty. Um, but to go back to the example of her, so she kept saying when we had this last call, it's like 2 days ago. Oh, I don't feel comfortable, right, with being in a DM call. I was like, well, you never even considered if maybe I don't feel comfortable being in a call with three, four, five, six, seven other people. And she admitted she never considered that, which I thought was really funny because if you have a person who is showing that they're really not, because I joined a couple of these calls, but usually I'll just mute my mic because I'm sorry, but I don't really get that much satisfaction off of being in calls with a bunch of people, because usually what ends up happening is one person talks while everybody, or one or two people speak while everybody else just sits there and listens. And I just don't really understand the point of having that many people in a call since usually no one talks. And sometimes there are certain things I want to discuss with someone that I don't believe other people should have to hear or listen to or be made privy to just because they joined a call as well. Um, I'll never forget when I was in, I think, ninth or 10th grade. I had this one, I used to call him a friend, but they always turn on you. And I remember he would do the three-way call thing, and I was telling him about something that happened with one of my relatives, and his friend that was, his friend, not mine, was like, "Yeah, man, I was just trying to get away from that story." And I always thought to myself, it's so funny how these people will join a call, and when they say something, they expect you to listen to them, but then when you say something, you're not expected to be heard back. I just thought that was like got a lot of irony, but it reminded me of how a lot of times you like I don't understand how in real life, if you want to call somebody, excuse me, if you want to talk to somebody, you just call them and it's you and them, and like that's how most calls are. Nobody has an issue with it. Call could be 1 minute long, two, three, whatever. But then on Piscord, you have these chicks who act like having a one-on-one call, just you and them. It could be, again, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, doesn't have to be hours long, like some of them have shown that they have no problem with doing. And they just balk at it. Like you would almost think you're asking them to donate a kidney from how just the stark opposition they have to it. And it's like, look at what they're opposing. It's a phone call. But no, I just thought it was important to point out, how insane that is, that this person wants me to feel bad for them, or excuse me, feel sympathetic toward them because, oh, she doesn't feel comfortable being in a one-on-one DM call, even though she did it for 3 hours once, and then 40 minutes another time, and then 30 minutes again 2 days ago. But then if you don't feel comfortable being in a call with two, three, four, five people. I don't really have a problem with two because I've done that more often. But when the number starts becoming close to five, that's where I kind of want to draw the line. Um, when you don't feel comfortable with that, you're told to just get over it. Because remember, I don't like I said, if in modern society, if you're not a chick, you might as well not even exist. Nobody cares about what you think, with regard to this circumstance, at least. And no one tries to appease you or understand you or make accommodations because everything is revolved around broads, which is why a lot of times I feel just completely not motivated to even speak to them. Because what's the point of participating in a society or system that is based around being as unfair to you as possible? Because just because of your gender, right? Not you did any crime, just your gender is what makes everyone's so against, accommodating you. But then you're also supposed to accommodate these random chicks and make them feel good and treat them great. And it's like I'm good. So I probably will not be joining any more calls in that server, and we'll probably be leaving it in about maybe a week. Yeah, I don't. I'm not interested in having enormous calls with a bunch of people I don't even know and really don't even want to get to know. Like you, I don't know. And her reasoning was so weird. Oh, if you speak to my friends, you'll be getting to know me. It's like, I mean, I guess if someone were to speak to my brother or my parents or my grandparents, I guess they would be getting to know me through them. But why couldn't they just speak to me? Like what the hell is so sacred about just interacting with me that makes it borderline impossible to talk to the person that you actually want to get to know? I don't know why you have to have all these character witnesses. God, and it said this with complete conviction. And look, that's cool. If she wants to sit in her little server with two, three, four, five people on a call, I will not be one of them. Of course, we're gonna get interrupted because that happens every stream, every Saturday stream at least, every time.
I'm going down to
Jesus Christ. I want to make sure that I didn't track on here. I want to make sure I click the button fast enough. Oh my God. Okay, good. I caught it. Oh, Akatsuki Merchant's been a very eventful week. Thanks to some unforeseen circumstances, I couldn't finish my hooker video. I dropped my computer, fell off my mattress because some more crap. Um, and I'm in some weird kind of situation with this broad, so it's all kind of bizarre stuff. I don't know why every Saturday they have to come, and it would drives me nuts is that they will hear you speaking to someone else and just say, and what gets me is also is that I've seen them when they don't want to disturb something, they'll call me like even if we're in the house together. It's weird, man. Every single Saturday. I just wish I could just stream without interruptions. Like if I was doing some 5, 6, 7, 8 hour stream, I could kind of get it, but sometimes it's not even a full 2 hours. It's like an hour and a half, and you just like, why, why, God. Every time they act like it's an emergency, oh, I'm going somewhere. Just go. Jesus Christ. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just annoyed with a lot of this stuff because I don't think it should be as infuriating as it is, but they tend to find a way to be that way. Oh, but yeah, I just thought it was really funny. Oh, I don't feel comfortable being in a one-on-one call. Oh, you don't feel comfortable being in a group call? Oh well. That's always the funniest thing to me that people say that if you're a man and you don't want to talk chicks anymore, you're selfish. Like, no, it's these chicks that are selfish. 'Cause like I said, that call doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be every day or even every week. That's what gets me. It's like you balk at the idea of having a 30-minute call with one person, but you'll sit and have a 4 or 5 hour call with three or two or four people. It's just whatever. It's weird. It's weird. And like I said, the fact that she did it already, the 3 hour one, which I have proof of, if anyone doubts that, just makes it all the more bizarre. I'm so tired of these people. Like all the lies, all the contradictions. And she had the nerve to say she's complicated. I told her, no, you're not complicated. You're inconsistent. You had an hours long call with one person, and then when they asked for another one, you said that you didn't like them, as if that person, you know, used their telepathy to make you have the first one. So I'm really sick of these people and not being able to choose and decide whether they want to do something. Then my stream got delayed by an hour because an unexpected visitor just came and just walks back and forth, talks very loud, all the bells and whistles of an impending interruption. There's this trope on TV tropes called once per episode where there's something that happens every episode of a show, and like every time I do a stream on Saturday, I get interrupted by the same person announcing that they're going somewhere. Every single Saturday, without fail, every time. Because at least when people call me, they don't know if I'm not some enormous streamer, so they don't know if I'm streaming or not. But they hear you speaking and they just don't care. Just so irritating. And it's always on Saturday. So first they make the stream late, then they mess it up a little bit for good measure. They add insult to injury. Still haven't left either. You notice that? Still haven't left. Oh yeah, I read One More Day for the first time, and I think 10 years. Whenever that, no, it wasn't 10 years. It was. I know I didn't read it when it first came out. It must have been 2 years after. It's like 2009. So I read it again for the first time in like 11 or 12 years, and it's still as bad as I remember it. The idea that a superhero who is synonymous with the phrase "with great power comes great responsibility" would risk his marriage by would destroy his marriage by making a deal with the devil um, to save the life of a person that he himself endangered. I just think is nuts. So the only good things I can say about that book are that I like the art. I think it was that looked decent enough. Which I'd say the same thing about Synth Pass. Terrible stories, but the art's pretty good. Um, and they have one line that kind of explains Peter's motivations for wanting to keep Aunt May alive. Because I remember a lot of people were saying, "Why can't they just let her pass away? She's old. She's old. She's old." But he said that this wasn't her dying from natural causes like a heart attack or some other health related thing. It's unnatural to have your life ended by a bullet. So I thought that was a decent enough reasoning for him being so obsessed with, and also like the fact that he was indirectly responsible for it. I thought that was a pretty good explanation, because I remember when I used to see reviews of the book before I even read it. People were pointing out, I was like, yeah, why does he? Why can't they just let her pass away? So that was you know fairly awful story, and it kicks off everything wrong with modern Spider-Man comics, because right after that issue, we get the start of Dan Snott's run, the 10-year nightmare that thing was, the 10-year tenure of terror, as I like to call it. And I think it's so funny how I was just reading like the first issue of his run, and he introduces this like new love interest of Carly, and I just thought to myself, God, that reminds me of why I despise modern comics, because a lot of times the few instances where they change something, it's usually a thing that didn't even need to be changed. I mean, you know, like I remember the Peter MJ marriage and how iconic that was. One of the first of its kind in superhero comics, because usually a love interest was just there to screw up the hero's abilities to do good. So to completely erase that just so you can bring Harry back from the dead, who later is retconned, into I'll explain that whenever if I ever start reading Nick Spencer's run. If I survive Slot's terror, it's like you erase this 20-something year marriage and bring in a new love interest who's boring, dry as paint. If I'm remembering correctly, the gimmick with her was that every single person that is in Peter's life tells him how good they like he and her are together. This Carly chick, and I'm just like, oh man, I know now. I see what a writer's Mary Sue looks like. Like I said, I don't think his character needs any more love interest. I think he already had a good one, but that's the problem with a new writer. They're trying to leave their mark, and they have to. It's so funny how like almost none of these writers. So there's I haven't read nowhere near as many Batman comics as with Spider Man or X Men, but from what I've heard, one of the things that happens with a lot of different writers that have come on for the last 20 years, like last 30, like since the 90s, right, is that they like to make their own villain. And then after they leave the book, the villain is never used again because no writer cares about them besides the person that made them. And the only exception to this rule was Bane, and I think Hush, if I remember correctly. Um, and it's really funny because it goes back to this thing of how they try to make their own, like after a certain era, pretty much all the iconic elements of certain characters, that's it. Like you basically got them. Um, like I said before, the first 30 issues of TASM is where all the major iconic villains show up. You really don't get that many outside of that original Lee Ditko run, except for Shocker, Kingpin, and then I'm trying. I think that's yeah, like a very few, just not that many. And then way later down the line, you get Hobgoblin and Venom and Carnage, but it's like still the majority of prominent villains for the character were made by his co-creators, and that's the one that tends to be the most influential, for good reason. So it's really ironic to me that you get these later writers, and it seems like there's this balance that can never be struck between making your own character who's going to actually be memorable and well liked, and just using the ones that have already been around. No, Slot's run is I remember all of it because like that's around the time. This is like 2007, 2008. That's around the time I would start to actually like get individual issues of comics back when I was like 9 and 10. I would have thought I'd be more nostalgic, but I remember like that dark period, going to Borders to buy they call it a graphic novel, and then you get the book, and it's got this like we call it like the wrapping on it that has the actual cover, but you take that off and it's just a book with no cover, which I've always hated about hardcover books, that they don't even have, like, they don't even try to make them look good on a shelf. They just have the title on the spine and then maybe on the front in like the most generic way possible. So it's going to be really interesting to relive this period of not so great glory. So I'm really not excited at all for the future of this stuff. That's why I'm doubting that I'm going to even get to, because I don't remember off the top of my head what happens in 600. I know that 700 is the one where Doc Ock takes his body, and 800 is the one where Norman, as I think it's like the Red Goblin, kills Flash. But I'm probably not going to get to that stuff because I don't like Slot at all. Like I'm only 2 or 3 issues into his run. I already want it to be over. And it's not even just how bad it is, but also like the fact that it's this long, 10 years. And I never thought I'd do like a top 10 worst comic writers, but he's definitely at the top of the list. Seriously, there's no other writers where I'm just like scoffing at the idea of reading anything they write. But again, it's usually just me trying to be a completionist. Like if I start reading Fantastic Four #1, I go all the way to 500. and then he starts writing the book at 501. I can't just say, well, I don't like this writer, so I'm not even gonna bother, checking this out. Now, Morbius Merchant, you love Slot. He's one of your favorite writers. You hope he writes the sequel to your favorite film that's coming out on digital in what is that, 4 days? Or excuse me, 3 days. That'd be funny if I give you that title until we get the second film, Morbius Merchant, because it's alliterative. It's two M's. But it sucks because like I remember, and it's not that long of a period, but when you have civil war and everyone knows that Peter's identity, and they're like actually going after him, and you can no longer hide behind the mask. I thought it was really interesting, and it was something we'd never seen before. And it's something that I wish lasted a lot longer because you don't really get to see that much of it. It's just he goes this place, and then his aunt and Mary Jane just hide in some spot, and I just wish that had gone on longer because I think it was really interesting. I really like the fight him and Kingpin have at the jail, where he just beats him and he actually promises him that if Aunt May dies, he's gonna come back and kill him, and he better pray and hope. Because usually I'll write stuff off like that as being edgy, but it makes a lot of sense because it's frequently depicted that when you hurt one of Spider-Man's loved ones, you send him into a rage that he usually doesn't have. And I just thought it was very well done. Like I said, JMS is a decent writer. He may have been suckled into writing One More Day, but he himself is all right for the most part. Guy, like, besides One More Day, the only problem I had with his entire run was that he was trying to like go into this thing that Spider-Man wasn't a freak accident. It was something that was destined to happen. I've never liked that. I've never, it's one of those things where along with the parents being spies, I've always disliked because it takes away from a lot of the everyman qualities of the character. You have to go use the bathroom?
Yeah,
Huh.
they can't see me, right?
No. It only goes up to right here. Man, I haven't seen a writer as bad as Slot ever. Um, it's really crazy that I don't know anyone else that I actively despise reading because I know like a lot of people don't really care that much for like actually reading comics, but I've never seen anyone else where the second I see their name as writer, I'm just like, oh my god, here we go again. Like he really is really like the only writer where I'm just like I'm not excited just knowing that your name is attached to this. I guess him and Joe Quesada. That movie has never been good. What are you talking about, Morbius Merchant? It was so good that you've already pre-ordered your digital copy that's coming out in 3 days. I think it's really funny how one problem compounds another. Like I only put it right here because I had to walk. I had it right there as I was getting ready to stream. So if it had like fallen, I would have been able to catch it. But then I got called to like close the door behind this person, and then right after I closed it, that happened. And I only had it right here instead of, more, in like a more safe spot because he was sleeping right there. So and then the floor is only as hard as it is because of them changing it with getting rid of the carpet for the wood. Yeah, all the issues together just ruin stuff. That's why I said I just wish that things were different. Just stuff could be better than it currently is. Um, I guess we want to get back into some of the woman stuff. I just you have some people who think that it's like an act to say that you don't think it'll ever happen with chicks, but when you've seen the different circumstances that they're able to walk back from, right? Ones that have had hours long, very explicit phone calls with you, you know, barely anything comes out of it. Ones that have said outright that they like you in a romantic way, barely anything comes out of it. Like I could completely see them doing that for another 2, 5, or 10 years because that's what chicks do. They waste people's time. And I just think it's funny that like there are individuals who really believe that I just am negative for no reason. Like, no, if something bad has happened to me, I remember it. Especially if it happened over and over again. I'm not negative about anything until I'm given a reason to be. With Sony, when they started their little cinematic universe, I said, okay, this is some I'm willing to give a chance, right? Because I don't want Marvel, or the MCU to be the only studio that can make decent stuff. They put out the first Venom, I thought was all right. Put out the second Venom, which I still haven't seen, but I've seen like mixed reviews for. And they put out more BS. And every single person that I've seen that gives a review of this thing says it's bad. And now they're announcing crap like El Muerto and Madam Web. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? So, but my negativity comes from having given them a chance and feeling let down by what they did with it, which was very little that I would say was good. So, I just think the accusation that I am just negative is total garbage. But like I said, when the problem is when you live in a world where people narrowly define you by your love life and they try to believe that chicks are like the most important thing ever and they determine if you're a good person. I guess it makes sense that they say stupid stuff like that. It all starts to add up and connect. You're too negative. And what always gets me is that I'll do a stream where I'm in a good mood, I'm smiling, I'm laughing. I mean, even today, like I've shown multiple signs of being in a decent mood, even after I had some pretty crappy stuff happen right before the stream started, where I had to wait an hour and computer fell on the floor, just different stuff like that. But what I think is interesting is like I don't know anyone who just acts the same way every day, all day long, who's never in a bad mood, who is never upset over like I don't get where there's this rule against a man being disillusioned with something. I don't understand. Because like I said, we've encountered chicks that said they wanted to end their lives, all kind of manners of depression, right? And I don't go around telling those people you're not allowed to feel depressed or to be sad. But remember, we said this before, you preach acceptance while being met with intolerance. So you accept these people for who they are, and you get treated like trash for being who you are in return. I didn't feel comfortable doing DM calls, even though I already did 2 of them, and one of them was 3 hours long. Man, if you had told me when I spoke to her, what was it, like 2 weeks ago in that long, enormous call, that long, enormous call that took place pretty late over here, that she was never going to do a call with me again that was that long, or say that she never wanted to do it again, I would have hung up right in her face. I would have said, "I'm not gonna waste my time trying to get to know you if I have to speak to multiple other people to get to," like, it's weird. It's weird and dumb. I told her to her face that it was weird. It didn't make any sense. God, like So I said talking to chicks just a complete waste of time because even when it looks like they want to speak to you, even if it sounds like they want to talk to you, they conveniently always find a way to not be interested, to be opposed to something. I'm just so sick of them, man. I wish they could all just disappear. Like I don't want to talk to any of them anymore. They just do a lot of weird stuff. I had one of them literally. I kid you not. On what day was that? That was 2 days ago. So that's Thursday. I told her that she had a nice avatar. Her avatar's picture of herself. The exact day after I said this, she took it off. And and I've been speaking to her, or at least been on her friend list for about 6, 7, 8 months. And I've never seen her just not have an avatar before. So it was like, that's kind of weird that the first one I say I really like, a day after I say it, you get rid of it. But I didn't confront her about it. Didn't try to message her because like again, what's the point? I already know if I get any answer at all, it's going to be a non-logical one. So why bother? I just think that's really convenient that the one avatar I compliment a day after I say it looks good, you get rid of it and you have no avatar for the first time since I encountered you 7 or 8 months ago. Awfully convenient. I should send her a message telling her to change her avatar to Morbius so she can get a lot of attention if she shows her fangs. Like right now, she's in that call. 3 people. Just went on Piscord just to look for a second. Um, I think I mentioned a while ago being like really happy that this one guy's wiki was getting almost no one to contribute since I left. Because he was, I thought, being like a real nasty person to the only individual that was editing it besides himself. Oh, we don't do this here, even though we never wrote down these rules anywhere, and it's something I just pulled out my backside so I could flex by deleting a bunch of your stuff. But I thought it was really interesting. Like I'm kind of in a mood now where I feel like in the past, when I was a fan of something, I would try to contribute to the wiki of it because when people don't feel like watching a movie or a show or whatever, they can go on the wiki and find information about it. But it really seems like they're just more trouble than they're worth. Um, as in, like when I like every time I've had a problem with whether it was Wikipedia or a wiki, it was always because I was contributing. I repeat, the biggest issue for me on these sites was that I would add content. They would, you would get in trouble with mods. They would try to argue you down. And I'm tired of that cycle. So I think from now on, I'm just not even going to edit any entry on WikiPiss, um, which was the hardest one to walk away from because of how much stuff is on there, um, or on any of these different wikis for different things I like because it's too much drama and just no reward. I mean, I've never made a mod on any of these places that for all the crap you put up with, for all the stuff you add. So there's just not enough reward to dictate the amount of frustration that goes into trying to actually do something productive. Just a really terrible website with a lot of people who feel like since they have no power in real life, they can give an example of it online. And that's what's so annoying to me. It's like some of these people just come out of nowhere. Like you'll have some article that no one's ever touched before, and you'll add stuff to it, and then whether it's a mod or some other random person, they just roll it back. And I'm like, who the hell is this? If they care so much about this page, why don't they ever contribute to it? They're trying real hard to make sure what you put on it doesn't stay, but they don't even add anything themselves. Because that's something I did. I noticed that most particularly with WikiPiss. Like I got tired of the stalking where people will go into your contributions and they'll follow you across the site to see what other page you edited so they can go and delete more stuff you wrote. I just got tired of that, man. Which is why I haven't logged into my account in like 2 years because I don't understand why if I'm someone who likes the news or politics or hell sometimes you could just be editing a damn characters page on that site, like not even a real life person, and they'll still like delete it and say, "Oh, this is not sourced or not notable or too long or et cetera, et cetera." And I'm just like, will this ever stop? Do I really just have to never contribute again to just not be annoyed with this site? I mean, like, what always gets me is that they have millions of pages on there, right? And it feels as if every day they look for a reason to get rid of something. Oh, this character page doesn't have a reception section, and you made a page for this episode of this TV show, but I don't think it's notable enough to have its own page. I'm gonna mass delete 30 of these. It's like, why? Like if you clearly don't have to worry about space because you already have millions of articles. So I don't know why keeping this one up is such a like urgent thing you need to get rid of. So I said this is weird. And again, I every time I rant about it, I always know I'm just speaking into a void because a lot of people have never had to put up with that stuff. But just imagine being on a site where you don't get paid to do anything. And from because you care or are interested in the topic, you want information about the topic that people might not know if they view the current version of the article to be on the article. And again, you do this completely because of your dedication to whatever the topic is, because you're interested in people being able to see this stuff on what's supposed to be the largest encyclopedic site on the internet. And then for your troubles, you get rewarded by having your stuff reverted because it's not notable or too long or blah blah blah, any old crap they like to say. And then some of the people on there even have the nerve to stalk you, to follow you from page to page, just deleting stuff you wrote. And you say to yourself, God damn, all of this because I wanted to contribute to your terrible website, your website that your own creator has come out and disavowed for what it's turned into. Your money hungry website that, as it tells its contributors, it doesn't need them, begs them for money so it doesn't have to put ads up out of some perceived um, and misguided belief of having integrity and being neutral when WikiPiss is anything but, especially if you go and look at the talk pages for that site where you see some of the stuff they're saying and just we've been over this before. They are biased. They're a little bit easier at hiding it than other places are. But yeah, I'm always going to remember the train wreck that is that website, and I really hate that it doesn't have a competitor. I think YouTube should have a competitor, some other video sharing website, right, that people get paid off of being on. And I think WikiPiss should have a competitor because anytime these sites don't have some kind of rival, and they get on top, they get this massive ego that they can just treat people whatever type of way they want, and there's no consequence. And I don't think that's right. No, I believe that website is a very awful place, and unfortunately, a lot of people like to just sit there and give them passes for being bastards. And unfortunately, I use it admittedly quite a bit. If I'm looking up some show and I want to see what happens in the episode, I go on there, look at the plot summary. So it has its usefulness, but being an actual editor there and trying to help them You might as well be trying to jump off a bridge because they don't appreciate you. They're needlessly nasty. Um, like a lot of the stuff I said in my video from when I've originally left is still true about like why I hate the site. It's just a very miserable place ran by people that are very egotistical, who are not appreciative for the contributions of others, and who think that just because they're on some site with millions of pages that nobody notices when they act like pricks. That's why I felt good about like I didn't even care if the video didn't get thousands of views because I just got sick of being the only person that cared about this particular thing. It's like, yeah, I know most people don't contribute, but the idea that someone volunteers to help and they're like punished for trying to be of assistance and given arguments that are blatantly contradicting, like, oh, this page is too long, even though we have pages that are twice as big as this one, but it's too long. You know, I just got sick of that. I don't like hypocrites, and Wikipedia is a site that is based on hypocrisy. So me and WikiPiss are never going to get along again, and they'll always be in the wrong again because all they know how to do is just treat people like garbage. It's just so weird to see people like show superiority over. Like, imagine having nothing better to do with your life, that you feel better than other people because you go on a website and get to delete what they write, and that's like how you feel strong, you know? Because I remember I showed where the guy was like telling me about how my contributions are against what the site stands for. It's like, dude, I'm on a site where I don't get paid, I get no exposure, and I get treated like trash by editors like you. And you think I give a damn? Like, delete everything I wrote on here. You're still a piece of garbage, just as garbage as your website is. And the only reason anybody uses it is because they have no choice. There's no other options or alternatives. When you're someone's only option, you don't have to be decent. Like going on WikiPiss is the equivalent of some guy that like lives in a town where the only chick is like that's around his age is some old hooker that has like two kids, you know? Like of course he's gonna pay her some attention. There's nobody else in town that is of the opposite gender. It's like, what do you expect? He's on his last leg. No, I mean, I just got tired of the hypocrisy and all the lies and all the nastiness. Always have to remind myself this is a real website where people act like pricks. They just every time you go on there, you can find somebody acting nasty and being gross. And again, as much as I wish I could divorce myself from it, it's just too big. It's kind of like if I said, "Oh, I'm done with YouTube. I'm never gonna make of it." It's like I'm still probably gonna end up watching stuff on there every day though, because it's too massive to just completely throw. Same thing with Amazon. I ordered some from Amazon and it never came about 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's like, yeah, I got refunded, but it's like that's the kind of stuff that if this were anywhere else, I would consider not using the site anymore. Because I'm always told about how eBay is like filled with scammers and people that are trying to trick. But every time I've ordered from eBay, I always get what I want, or at least what some variation of that. They show me a picture. I say, oh, it looks nice. You buy it. There you go. But seriously, with this um, garbage with that site, I've never felt so frustrated. You know, oh, this person deleted what I wrote because it wasn't notable. Slash, it wasn't. It was too long. Slash, it was unsourced. Slash. That's the only thing I thought was funny with their sourcing, where they're like, you need a proper source if you want to add this. It's like, okay, my source is an interview with this person where they are literally saying what I just wrote down. You need a proper source. That's not a reliable source, but that's the person speaking. and the words coming out of their mouth. You need a reliable source. This is not an accurate, like, that's why I said that site is just, it's so annoying. It's kind of like if I did an interview with, let's say the New York Post, right? And they want to add that to my page. The New York Post is not a reliable source, but this is an interview that they had with this person where they're talking about themselves. So this person clearly consents to it being reliable as far as sitting down with them, and like that's actually them speaking to these people. You know what I mean? It's just they're really goofy like that. But make sure you donate. As they treat you like garbage, make sure you give them a few dollars. I swear they're just a really nasty source on the internet, and I feel very displeased to know that I was part of that. I was never someone who went around deleting people's stuff just to be a, a douchebag and like on your talk page. You cannot do this, and you violated policy X0, whatever. I was someone who just tried to contribute, and they treated me like garbage for a while. And I used to take long breaks from the site too, like just because I would just get fed up with it, and I eventually, after the way I was spoken to on there, because remember, people always when they talk their nastiest when they're typing for some reason. The way I was spoken to on there really signaled my just complete final, disillusion with the site. Because a lot of the people that edit on there are keyboard warriors. They feel powerful when they type stuff to you. I already said before, I'm not exactly too fond of talking to people in text because it's always in text where it's easier for them to disassociate from what they're saying. So they feel like stronger when they're typing stuff instead of just actually speaking it. And people know what I'm talking about. When you type something, you can just like write it down, and you don't have to think too as hard as actually talking to the individual, voice to voice. So I didn't feel bad at all doing the video. It's like, you guys are such pussies that you hype buying keyboards while you talk all your crap. Here I am out in the open. Like I said, I'm not ashamed of my record online. Like, oh my God, he left WikiPiss of his own volition. They didn't ban him. He just left. What did he do? He tried to edit. It's like, come on. I didn't feel bad at all. I guess I feel a little disappointed it turned out that way, but like me actually thinking, oh my God, I'm just such a terrible editor and I need to learn from the great wiki gurus. And I think I was talking about help to get involved with some kind of effort to make an article a good article, because they have these little things like featured article, good article that show how decent one of the pages. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna sign up for that so that I can contribute to an article that still may not get approved for being a good or featured article, because you guys have all kind of little flimsy definitions you draw all over the place. And then after I do that, you're not going to have people that just come around and delete what I write, which they've always been doing. Like, what I'm saying, that like even if you do that, you still run the risk of getting your stuff deleted because somebody doesn't think it's important enough or thinks it's too long or not, whatever different reason they have. So, I didn't think the juice was worth the squeeze. I'm not going to sit here and help out a site that treats me like trash. Certainly not in an organized effort. Try to make an article become a good article and then learn, man, the hell out of here. I'm gonna learn how to do something completely useless that I could never get paid for because random what was the nickname I gave that guy in the video? Ho in his 60s. Yeah, Ho in his 60s wants me to practice to become a great Wikipedia editor so I can continue to get treated like garbage and have my stuff deleted. Woohoo. Like, yeah. The day I start taking that site seriously, I should just log off entirely, because there's nothing that site can teach you or assist you with in any way that is considered productive or decent. I've never seen a single person that edits on WikiPiss that made it anywhere other than just being on that site and becoming a mod. So You will not be seeing me trying to do any of that volunteer work stuff. A good article, according to who? The little committee that has a problem with every damn thing that they didn't write, which is why they go around deleting stuff left and right. Some people on there really have no lives, like those mods. Like I've seen them edit over 100 times in one day. And you might say to yourself, "Oh, well, it might be small." It's like, yeah, but 100 edits in one day, like just sitting at your computer, type this, type that, save, 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 save. Like that's weird to me. Sorry, but I have a life. I have 99 other better things I can do than contribute to. And that's why I said I think at its best the site is a decent reference point, but actually trying to help them and like expand on stuff, don't even bother. It's just a fool's errand. They're not appreciative. They're very nasty. They think they're better than you because they said their computer and can type stuff and I guess delete something. They're not worthy of any effort by any decent person that actually wants to help someone out. Sit over there and try to act like you're so big because you edit on a computer. People that actually matter are the ones that have articles on there. Like, and there are a few people from WikiPiss that have their own page because they did something of, but none of them are the ones that mess with me. I've never seen a single one of those mods have their own article. Always trying to put somebody down. It's like you're going to put somebody down over volunteering to contribute to your site. You tried to edit on this page. It's like, yeah, sorry. Won't happen again. Just a really nasty site. And it's just like they want someone to feel guilty. And I guess that's what the fundamental problem here is. I'll never feel bad for trying to be of assistance. You could say I could have collaborated more with the moderators, sure. But as far as like the fundamental issue of, oh my God, you added something to an article I vaguely don't like. No, you can go to hell. Like I said, if it's so bad, just delete it. Just delete everything I ever wrote on there. If all of it is so, but what's funny? If I actually did try to do that, like literally delete every single thing I wrote on that site, I would get banned in 2 seconds for vandalizing because they know the stuff I added was good, and most of it stayed because it was decent. And it showed that you can accomplish a lot for that site if you're not harassed and antagonized by douchebags that think they're better than somebody because they can type and delete stuff on a crappy site that doesn't even pay anybody to do stuff for the most part anyway. So that's the biggest problem with the internet. You have all these people, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Pisscord, whether it's on WikiPiss, whether it's on Twitter or Twatter, whatever you want to call it, whether it's on Instagarbage, they always think that just because they can do one thing or they have this number of followers, they're better than someone else. Like by enough people clicking this button or by them getting mod privileges or whatever, they have some kind of higher level of meaning than you or I. And it's the funniest thing in the planet because it couldn't be further from the truth. Look at me, I'm a contributor on WikiPiss. Congratulations. We're all going to remember Random Mod 300. It's funny how all these communities are all so similar to each other because if you look at the Wikipedia like political community, I don't even like calling them that, but you have like different subsections. With them, they try to say that this information about this person is not notable or this isn't important and you shouldn't do this. And then the nastier ones will come and like tell you that you're adding stuff that's not important or significant. And it's kind of they're like they so vaguely remind me of these guys defending these chicks because they're nasty, right? Towards someone that's trying to do, because people consider a man trying to talk to a woman and approach her a thing a man's supposed to do, right? If he wants to get a date. And on WikiPiss, they want you to contribute, otherwise they wouldn't be, prostituting themselves and begging for people to add to their stupid site. So it's always you do something that at the heart of it, whether they disagree with what the final result is, at the heart of it is based around what you're instructed to do. If you want to get into the good graces of the general community, the people at the top, whichever way you want to refer to it, and then you get punished for doing that same thing that they encourage you to do. Your edit was not notable enough and it was trivia, but my edit was still a contribution from a person who doesn't get paid to do any of this stuff that you guys want to add to your horrible site because you want volunteers. You asked out this woman and got rejected. It's like, sure, but I still asked out the same group of people that if you're a straight man, you're supposed to ask out if you want to date. By the way, there's some Reddit post with a woman I'm going to end up, I might include it in my video. I don't know if I'll have like a whole section dedicated to it, but she was talking about how men don't give chicks the benefit of the doubt when they turn them down because the man will just think the woman is rude when she's probably been approached by 5, 10, or 15 men since the day started or something. And I was thinking to myself, well, hell, like this goes back to my point. What's the point? What's the purpose of approaching them if they don't like it? If they get so many approaches, like I don't. That's why I said that the chick stuff is damned if you damned if you don't, because you don't. If you approach them, some of them get annoyed and say, "Oh, you're part of why I'm tired of men because so many of them are throwing themselves at me." And then if you don't approach them, none of these chicks sure as hell approach you, and then you get blamed for being single. So you ask the bastards out, they get mad because it's redundant and they've had it happen multiple times in that one day. And if you don't ask them out, none of them say a single word to you. So like that's why I said the chick stuff is just that somebody needs to just write a book and it should be called Approaching Women. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And just talk about it's a never-ending cycle of finding ways to blame you for any which way this stuff goes. If it doesn't head in a direction you like, you'll always get blamed. God, asking out chicks is just it's just a literal nightmare on earth because people always find a way to make the man out to be the problem. The only person that was trying to change anything is conveniently always the problem with this scenario. Remember, they'll blame the man for it not going anywhere, but they won't blame the woman who said one thing and did the opposite. They won't blame the woman that sat there and had a 3-hour call with the man just to tell him a day later she doesn't like having DM calls. Just it's just weird. Hey, how's the one song go? I'm gonna defend women until I'm blind, cause being obsessed with them has destroyed my mind. Hey, you hear the logic that they have with these chicks. You would think their minds went to mush. Always able to defend them. No matter how screwed up what they do is, no matter how insane how they act is, the backwards logic. Imagine me going up to somebody and saying, "Hey, you want to get to know me? You got to join a conference call with me, my brother, my parents. I don't know, my grandma, my best friend. Because then if you know people that know me, you'll get to know me as well." It's like I would get laughed at. That's why I said chicks are the only people that can make these bizarre requests, and you're expected to acquiesce to it. And just as I wouldn't talk to a bunch of random people like just to maybe go on a date with someone because of how many times it's gone the other way. I sure as hell wouldn't do that just to be friend zoned by somebody. I mean, I just can't believe people expect you to put up with stuff like that. Oh, do this group call with me and my friends. No. If you want to talk to one person, you should be able to talk to that one person. You shouldn't have to speak to no army of people. And it's not even like, oh, I want to introduce you to my brother or my mother or my dad, right? You know, some little brief interaction where you first meet the person. No, they want you to sit in these and sometimes hours long calls with a bunch of complete strangers. I think like I don't understand because some of these people, and I've been on these calls before where they're talking so much, they don't even notice that you haven't spoken in like 20 or 30 minutes. You think I'm kidding? Like some of them are so wrapped up in, and again, I always say I can kind of understand because there's a bunch of people on the call, but it makes my point of how some of these people are so wrapped up in their multiple individuals that they're talking to, they don't even notice if the same two or three people haven't said a word in an hour. I was in one call, they talked to each other so long, I watched the whole movie. Nobody said hello to me. No one said, "Hey, what do you think?" Nothing. And that's why I don't like group calls because they don't like it's a bunch of people who usually out of this whole group are barely even speaking. Like if you have a call with 7 or 8 people and it's the same 3 or 4 speaking, why are the other 3 or 4 there? It should just be the few that are talking to each other having the call, since they're the ones that are so engaged with their discussion. So I said this stuff is weird. Like what purpose is there to doing any of that? Still laughing at the person who said you gotta put in work, right? For the woman thing. It's like, no. I think everyone has a certain line that they cross, like a boundary, like, hey, beyond this, I will not go. And that's how I feel with the chick stuff. You can't expect me to just keep doing all of these different things. Because remember, you're never gonna get any credit for it anyway. You think you're entitled to her because you sat in some calls. No, I did what she requested I do and got nothing for it. And when you say nothing, you have people that draw these conclusions. Oh, this person wants intercourse because they all everything is always about intercourse, right? It's like, well, I mean, what I really wanted was to have a DM call. I didn't know speaking to someone was so disturbing and makes them uncomfortable. Like just talking to one other individual, God forbid. Like I said, this stuff is just so cartoonish. I'm complicated. No, you're not. Don't even try to be complex or try to paint yourself as being complex. You're just someone who says one thing and does the other. What a joke. I forgot Kotsky Merchant isn't leaving any comments anymore because he's too busy watching. This is his last time watching his bootleg copy of Morbius. He's making sure he gets his final bucks out of that camcorder in the theater. But seriously, I think a lot of this stuff, and what's so disturbing is that it's not even like on a romantic thing because I really am done with asking out chicks. But even just to like talk to them, it just seems like such a hassle. Just to have a call with somebody is becoming borderline impossible because they're so busy. I have to wait. I couldn't write back to you for 2 months because I was so busy. I swear the way some of them act, they make it sound like I'm trying to take one of them out on a damn multiple day cruise in the Caribbean or something. At least then I could understand why you would plan that months in advance and you know not be able to do it right because of how long it would be. But like just to send a message you can literally type up in less than 1 minute. Can't do that. And people are really confused why I'm sick of chicks. Really? That's a thing that surprises and shocks people still. Because we're at the point where even just trying to be like platonic with them doesn't work. One, because a lot of them believe that any man they talk to wants to be with them romantically, um, to where you can literally not make any kind of romantic overture, and just because of your gender, they think you want them. So I get that. That's one of the issues. The other issue is that a lot of them just aren't committed to keeping a like continuous dialogue going, which is why a lot of them, when they're given the choice to write a message to you, send a little DM or something, some kind of like little tiny message, just hello, how are you? I've been all right, just whatever. Um, they can't even do that because they're so busy. One of these days, I'm gonna find some chick I speak to. It could be on Discord, it could be in real life. Probably on Discord though, because I don't even really talk to them in real life anymore. Um, and I'm going to, after a few days, just not respond and only hit her up after a month has passed. And if she asks how I've been doing, I'm gonna say I've been so busy. No, they can play that game. I can play it too. I'm just thinking about the chick stuff. It's like, man, wouldn't it be nice to? Because I'm gonna mention in the video. There's like a guy that comments on the hooker video. Was like, "Do you not want children?" with the question mark and exclamation mark, like he was yelling at me. I'm like, I mean, it will be nice, but if you have people, if you have a bunch of chicks who can't even write one message to you per month, you're not getting a relationship with any of these people because they're stretching this stuff out far beyond the point where you would even think. Like they're clearly showing they don't want to talk to you. Like why? Who has someone they want to speak to that they can't even respond to a message more than once a month? I don't know, man. It just feels like you could talk. And I remember the one chick that said it was like 5 years ago. You could talk to her for 2 years and she still probably wouldn't like you back. So it's like, yeah, what's the point of having these never ending continuous correspondences with, you know what I mean? Like why bother? If it's never gonna go anywhere and all of them are gonna friend zone you or not reciprocate, I don't get it. Like, why do you have to talk to somebody for 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months just to maybe go on a date, Like, I think that's weird. A date that you're gonna have to pay for, that if person doesn't like, they have to do again. Like, I don't think it's worth it. I really don't. Same thing with the muscle stuff. Like, why do you have to have a six pack to date someone that's 300 pounds? I don't quite get it. Because people always like to say, "Oh, the women you approach are probably out of your league," but they don't know what any of these chicks look like. Some of them you can infer have not been skinny, and it's like to date this woman that is over there scarfing down fries in the burger. I have to have a six pack. I have to run 3 miles every week. Just got here already. I agree with what you're saying. Hope you're having a good weekend. Yeah, I'm gonna try to finish that. I couldn't make the hooker video this week because I had some stuff that came up, but most of the script is done. So um, it should come out this week. So I know you're very disappointed. You clicked the unsubscribe button. You're probably getting ready to write some curse words about me. being lazy, but I've been trying to make that thing. It's just you gotta understand. I have almost no opportunity to just record stuff without someone else being here. And there were some parts where I actually want to put a little bit more emotion into it than usual, and it's hard to do that when you have people like, oh, you're too loud and all that stuff. So that's one of the reasons behind it. The other reason is just I haven't been able to completely finish the script. I've got all the dumb messages I'm responding to, and I made my point at the start of it, but actually like writing the conclusion statements, both parts is really all that's left to do along with editing it. So like I said, I think it'll come out this week. If it's not this week, it'll be next week. Now, Megumi, let me ask you something because you seem like a reasonable, sensible person. Let's pretend the hypothetical scenario that you don't like to have DM call, or excuse me, you don't like to have phone calls with just one person, right? If you are truly someone who doesn't like to have phone calls with one person, why in the hell would you have a phone call with one person for 3 hours? It seems like a contradiction, right? I don't like having phone calls with a singular individual. I'm gonna have this 3 hour one with you. Still sitting on it. I'm getting ready to write some curse words toward you. Yeah, I can already see it. So people on this side act like you're their slave. Now I'm just trying to make sure the video makes all the because I really am not trying to like just be someone that remakes old stuff, but I want to like make it address the same points, but also respond to some of those really weird comments on that video. So those two things together, I'm trying to wrap up by the end of the week. Yeah, that's why it's been taking as long as it has. Gosh, another weird, insane person. Yeah, like there's one guy on there who said being with like in intercourse with a hooker is like cheating on a test in school. I'm like, I'm not in a relationship, so what am I cheating on? Who is being cheated? This person is getting paid to do a service that I want them to do. Like, what is so fraudulent about this exchange? Because you remember, you pay people to do services that in a lot of cases, I guess you could make the argument you could do yourself. Like, so for example, um, I could probably unclog my own toilet, but if I have like a really bad issue with one of them, I want to get a plumber to do it. So am I cheating on my plumbing abilities by getting a professional to do this for me instead of doing it myself? You know what I mean? Like, it's such a bizarre comparison. Like, what are you cheating on? But it goes back to that same thing of how you have these guys who like want men to be miserable, so they try to tell them that uh, stuff with hookers doesn't count, or whatever other. But if you were to take a what's it, the virginity test, and let's say you lost it to a hooker, they can't tell the difference. So it really it's that's just a stupid thing people say because they want you to be miserable forever. God, what a joke! What's wrong? No. Those kind of people just don't want you to feel good about yourself in any way. I remember something similar that was said to me by a sibling. Yeah, and it's really stupid because what is intercourse, right? It is penetration. This can be done by a regular woman or it can be done by a hooker. Either way, you're still getting the same result. And remember, there are plenty of regular chicks who do this with men that they're not even in a relationship with. That's why you have one night stands. That's why you have like the cheating that we've seen before. Like what a joke. Yeah, they want you to be miserable for eternity. Well, I told you we live in the everybody hates men era where, if you have any kind of needs or desires, people just tell you to kick rocks. You have to always impress the woman from her head to her socks. I'm gonna say in the video, I'm really not someone that cares that much for intercourse. Like it's not a thing where I just am actively bothered I don't have it. And I've said before that like I don't um care much for dates either. Like, it's something I would still want, but it's not like, oh, must have this. I can't. But if I ever felt that way with either of those two things, where I could not live without intercourse or a date, make no mistake, I'm not going to talk to a regular chick for 5 or 6 months or even longer. I'm going to go to Vegas and pay a hooker to take care of that. Like the era of regular chicks wasting my time is over. That's concluded. I don't know. It's so funny. People always tell you you're not entitled to a woman liking you back, but women are entitled to you waiting forever for one of them to find you attractive enough to go on a date with. That's a nice little contradiction, huh? Chicks are not. You're not entitled to ever get with a woman, right? Because they're all so amazing, and you're beneath them. But then they're entitled to you waiting forever for one of them to like you. So many use this against you to demonize you when it comes to this topic. They don't want to concede the fact that you can easily just pay for intercourse if you so desired it. Yeah, like that's what I think is so funny. They act like we live in the damn Flintstone Stone Age where like hookers are readily available. He talked about a double standard, couldn't be me. But you get the irony, right? They people really pretend that like intercourse is like a thing. Like, look, I've said before, getting an actual woman to like you for who you are and be in a relationship is 1,000 times harder than getting someone to have intercourse with you. When you can pay for something and it's not really that expensive, especially if you only do it a few times a year, like $100. It's like that's not hard. And it's so funny that people online sit here and pretend like when I had the damn troll that came and said, you're upset because women are not having it's like, I don't care. God, like it's really incredible that they pretend it's hard to get to have that when you can pay for it. Because again, they want to peddle these narratives. It's all part of the just world fallacy. Oh, you couldn't get a girlfriend because you only care about doing this nasty stuff with her. Because remember, women are saints and angels and nuns, and they never think of doing any of that stuff with men. When they have a boyfriend, all they do is just sit there and talk to him for hours on end. But it's just such a joke. Like they actually sit here and make the like say this stuff with sincerity. God, like, pardon me for just wanting a date. I mean, Jesus Christ. Didn't know people would try to make that harder than like it's so stupid to me. It's so dumb. But like I said, when they want to peddle the narrative, they will pretend they don't hear what you're saying. They'll make up stuff. I don't know if you remember the one insane person that claims they're a chick, but I don't believe it. Who said you want to be a player, but chicks can tell you just want intercourse. That's the vibe I'm getting. Just it's stupid. They'll make up anything they can to justify this happening to you. Because again, people hate men, and they will do whatever it takes to try to make us miserable. If this same scenario was happening to chicks, it would be a completely different story. You would see panels about it on TV. People would say that that there's something wrong with the men for these ridiculous standards, which was really funny because I remember when I was on online, right, looking at some of these forums that these chicks post on, and they would talk about how there's these guys that want these high maintenance broads that put on makeup and have these extremely slim figures. I'm like, I don't know any guy that just sits there like and goes, "Oh, I think this woman is attractive, but she's not wearing makeup, so I don't like her." Like, it's always a bunch like chicks that are the ones that are turning men down. So how the hell are the men the ones that have high standards? It also goes back to how they want to lump you in a box or category and just write you off. You only want intercourse disregarding what the individual needs you have. Yeah, they don't care. Because remember, that's the biggest problem with the I word for me. It was always a term that was used to put a bunch of guys who are different from each other. Because there are some guys don't want kids, that just want to get married, don't want to get married, just want to have a girlfriend, whatever. Just any kind of like variants you can think of, and just shove everyone into a box on the basis of, oh, you want to be with someone, but you're not. Can't imagine this being applied to chicks. I've only seen this used against men. Remember, chicks get to be individuals. They get to come online and talk trash about men, and no one calls them femcel. No one tries to say they're going to shoot up a school or molest a man or, any of this other violent, disgusting stuff that they try to put upon men for having this issue. And hell, when chicks complain about men, usually it's a man that they were with. They don't have men turning them down left and right. You had one guy who tried to come to my comment section talking about, I'm in a Facebook group where it's women talking. Yeah, I'd love to see it. No proof ever. But notice when chicks complain about men, it's usually some man that they were with that they believe cheated them or did something screwed up, right? It's never, oh, I asked out this many people and like no one. No, it's always someone that they were actually with. Whereas if it's men, it's usually them complaining about how hard they tried to get with some woman just for her to waste their time and they have to start all over again. So one-sided, it's not even funny. God, it's just such a shame, man, because one of the points of the streams was that you would try to have a productive dialogue where people actually listen to each other. And when you have people that write off your complaints because you're only this age or um what's the other stupid one? You just want to have it's like what's the purpose of even speaking to any of these people? Like, why shouldn't we just ban them immediately? That's why I think it's so ironic that you're supposed to just sit there and accept. Like, remember when chicks are having a problem, people want you to listen to them. They want you to hear them out. They want you to assess the needs of that individual as an individual. But if you're a guy and you have some kind of issue with chicks, nobody wants to hear out specifically what you're saying. Nobody wants to hear out what in particular bothers you. Just completely just ostracized and lumped into a box. Because again, they don't see men as individuals. They think of us as these slaves that they get to treat whatever way they want. That's why it's so blasphemous to these random guys that I want to talk to a bunch of chicks that don't even like me. Like, how could you do this? So, I was talking to my best friend yesterday, and we were talking about the. Let me see what you write. It can possibly make you end up resenting yourself because of your gender or something. Well, yeah, people resent men. Why do you think when you complain about this stuff, you get told about the patriarchy, you get told about what other men did to either women in general or to some chick that you're speaking to? You're always. It's so funny that women want to be seen as individuals, but they're the last people on earth that see men as individuals because they always use something a man did in the past to justify them treating you like garbage. Oh, every guy that spoke to me just wanted to have intercourse. Right, so that must mean that I want that as well, even if I've never communicated that or even shown any romantic interest in you. Period. Because again, it's about shoving you in the box and lumping you into whatever category they can to feel more comfortable. God, they're a real interesting group of people, I'll tell you that. The double standards, the nastiness. Just to point out one other thing before we, because I'm probably not gonna go for the whole 2 hours. When I was in, I think it was ninth or 10th grade, I made a couple of calls to the suicide hotline. Was the National Suicide Hotline. Just when I was, because I said before that, when I was younger, I was a lot more depressed. Um, for a myriad of things, but chick stuff was definitely a factor in it, right? And I remember that a lot of times when I would call him, I called him about maybe at least twice, but I think it was at least 3 times or 4 times, some single digit number. Every time I would have these calls, I would talk about what bothered me, just stuff in general. And I think a lot of it was mostly due to just being, I guess, lonely to some extent. But what I always remembered was the reason why I stopped calling them, and the reason was because one day when I was having I think again it's either the third or fourth call I had with them, there was a person on there, and I asked them, "Hey, because I hated that every time you would call, you would get a different volunteer." I was like, "Hey, can I get some other way of contacting you? Like, can I speak to you again?" Now, you know that when you say that, they can just tell you, "Oh, yeah, sure. Tomorrow I'm working at this time. You can call at this hour, and I'll be the one that answers." Something that still that doesn't really give you any personal information about them, but does like allow you to speak to them a second time. And this bimbo said to me some of the effect of, um, "A part of our training is to not give out any personal information to the people that call in." And I thought to myself, wow. And I realized, because if you go on Google and you type in like how to hang yourself or something, they have like the national suicide prevention number. Like, they promote them, right? Oh, call this number if you need help. But I realized these people don't care about anyone. Because think about this. If all you had to do to make someone not be depressed is have a phone call with them, I don't quite understand what the big deal is. Like why that would be something that is so damn advocated against by this group. Because I remember there was a guy on Reddit who was talking about how depressed he was, and he put his number on there, and I called him. And I called him multiple times after that. Um, but it really made me realize that people that volunteer for something like that are doing it because they want to feel better about themselves, not because they actually care about you or I or any other depressed person on some level of actually being invested in us in some long-term manner. Because like I said, the worst thing these people would have to do is speak to someone multiple times, which if it's in the capacity of them working there, I don't quite understand what the big deal is or why that would be such a horrible thing to do. No, but after that, I never called them again. Every time I see their number or them advertised, by one of these different sites, I laugh. And like I said, if I ever did commit suicide, I'm not going to call a number. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to sit there and try to talk to some people that I know don't give a damn about me. And already confirmed that when that woman said, "Oh, we are told as part of our what was it, training, not to give any personal information to the people that call in." That was when I knew what grandstanding was. Um, and how like people do things that they consider to be good, not because they actually care about other people, just because they want to feel better about themselves. I'll always remember that. Are you you're depressed? You're gonna call the National Suicide Hotline? I said, yeah, I'll call them a piece of garbage. That'll be my call. Magui says, I know what you mean. I really don't like that. Very unfortunate. Doing something as simple as calling someone to prevent the person doing, yeah, something as simple as calling another human being and asking them, how are you doing today? Are you all right? Or having them, because remember, some of these people have like a designated time that they work. They could just tell you, "Hey, I'm working, 7 this time. You call in, I'll be the one that answers." Because I they keep your number on record, like with your name. I know they do because one of the people like was like, "Oh, you called here once or twice before, and you spoke to this person and that person." I was like, "Wow, I'm telling you, I don't care how depressed I get, I will never call them again." And I haven't. It's been I think either 8 or 9 years, and I have never called since then because I know that they don't care. They honestly don't care about the people they're speaking to at all. No, it's just a thing to make themselves feel better as individuals. Oh, look, I volunteer for the National Suicide Hotline, and I talk to people for like 10 or 20 minutes and get to learn about their tragic backstory and never speak to them again. But I helped people. Yeah. Like I said, all they would have to do is just tell you when they're in it again. You can call them and speak to that same person instead of having to keep relitigating. And because that was what annoyed me, like always having to speak to a different person. You know what I mean? Like, why can't you just continue to speak to this particular individual that you, I guess, grew comfortable with in some call that went on for like 30, 40, 50 minutes? God, they act like having a call is like is so damn. I guess we just live in an era where people are really lazy, and just to speak to another human being that hasn't done anything to them is like this very taxing chore. Because if I was told that all I had to do to stop someone from being depressed is just speak to them on the phone, I would do it. Like if I as a random individual just could call them and they feel better. Oh, I got to tell this person about something that bothers me. Like I don't understand why that was something that they were so turned off by. But yeah, it really reinforced that idea to me that you can never, because you look at a group like that, and I remember when I was talking to triple, what was that, triple L, and I was like, oh, these people, I don't know how we got to it, but I mentioned that um I said something negative about them, and she was like, "Oh, what's wrong with uh people calling and you trying to help them from?" And I explained to her that that exchange, and I was like, can you not pretend I don't know what I'm talking about? Again, if I have a disillusion with something, it's because I had an experience with it. So if I had never called them before and dealt with them myself multiple times, I would probably still think, "Oh, they're these people that actually want to help some." But that exchange really opened my eyes to how useless they are and how much of what they do is just grandstanding. It's interesting you mentioned this story. I don't think I've ever heard you mention this before, but yeah, I agree with you. Far too many people are just so lazy or busy to have a simple call. No, I don't think I mentioned before either. I'm just saying that um, we were just me and him were discussing this yesterday, and we were just talking about how people say one thing and then you get the reverse. Because on its face, it sounds good. Oh, I volunteer with the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and people call in, tell me their story, and I try to convince them to keep on trucking. And it's like, yeah, it sounds good and really nice. And then you remember, or rather, you find out that they won't have more than one call with you because they've been told they can't get attached to the people that they support. That remember, they're trying to get you to believe if you're the person who's suicidal that they care about. No, that hotline became a joke to me after that. Every time I saw them on Google or some other place, it's like, yeah, they care about people not killing themselves. Like I said, if I ever feel like doing it, I'm not. I'm gonna call somebody. It's sure as hell is gonna be that hotline because they're clowns. No, it's just so funny, like, because again, I know what my stuff looks like. You hate Wikipedia, a free encyclopedia where volunteers get together to try and put out information so you can have it in one place instead of having to search all over the web. Why do you hate them? It's like because I was one of those volunteers that was treated like garbage by the same site that asked me to volunteer. And oh, you don't like the National Suicide Prevention Hotline? You call them clowns, the same people who are trying to stop others from taking their own lives and are not paid to participate in something that is helping individuals. Like, yeah, I'm calling them clowns because I was someone who called and found out that they don't actually want to get attached to any of the people that they try to convince they care about. Told you if I have disillusion with something, because I dealt with it and it sucked, and I remember. Seriously, I like back then I was so and again, I still have times where I'm depressed, but if I do get depressed, I just go out and go for a walk and like turn on my phone and record myself talking. I would rather do that 1,000 times over than call that stupid number again. Because I just don't think modern people with their lack of concern or compassion for others are are equipped to properly deal with the types of circumstances and situations that people are in. You know, like for example, I accept the fact that since a majority of people have never tried to make their own damn show, they'll never understand like why that voice actor thing was like hell on earth, right? Because they've never dealt with it. Um, and in the same regard, I understand that because my father and my mother is from a generation before social media was really that big of a thing. They don't know what it's like to be a man and try to talk to some woman and have 20 or 30 other guys speaking to her at the same time. You know, it's just they're not equipped to deal with certain things that only came about in the last 10 or so years. Yeah, many people need to understand that there's a reason or story behind why this person may feel upset to have a different position about something than most others. Yeah, because when people see that hotline, they think there's that this is like a group of good Samaritans. No, it's just a bunch of people who are bored and who want to feel good about themselves by doing something that sounds good on paper, but its execution is pretty poor. They are quick to question why, but not question when. Well, like I said, we just don't live in an era where people are sympathetic toward men. That's why the majority of suicides are men. So a majority of homeless people are men because you live in a world where for some reason, and you can talk about the matriarchal role of chicks having kids, but even though chicks are having less kids than ever before, 30-year low, right? People believe that if you don't have a vagina, you are of some inherent lesser value as a person. You can have others treat you like trash, harass you, um, look down on you, belittle you. And again, as long as you don't have a vagina, nobody will give a damn. Or very few people will care, excuse me. And the only exceptions are sometimes like a really famous guy, but even that's pretty rare. Seriously, if I ever was suicidal again, I'm not calling that number. That's the last number I'd ever call. They'd probably give me more reason to want to end it. It's like, oh, I can get away from fakes like you. It's just really sad that people actually think they're like a helpful group. You know, they probably still get dozens of calls a day. And I feel sorry for those people, not because they're pathetic or anything, but just that they don't know. And I'm sure somebody else also has found out that but like they don't know that group doesn't actually care about them. They're just people who they want some more like points to look good. You know what they did is the equivalent of, imagine if I volunteered every weekend to work at a homeless shelter, just like a place they make food, whatever, give to homeless people. And then some homeless man is like, uh, hello there, Mr. Justin. Let me tell you about that time that I last saw my wife. I'm like, oh, sorry, sir. I'm busy. I can't speak to you. Like I care so much about these people that when they try to work, tell me about something that matters to them or bothers them, I just turn a blind eye. I'm like, oh, I don't have time to address this or to listen to this. I think that's hilarious. Because again, it all goes back to this, to their wants within themselves to feel better than they actually are. It's really funny that I remember when I called them, the first person was a guy, the second one was I think like some British lady, and the third one was a woman again. And I swear, um, I probably, if I was like depressed or whatever, because how bad the chick stuff has gotten since then, if I ever called them and it was a chick, I would hang up immediately. It's like, nope. You're part of the reason I'm so damn frustrated anyway. No, I just know that I'm never gonna put faith in random people again to make me feel better. It's just really sad that we live in a world where people I don't know, you just, when you give a surface level of glance to stuff, it looks good. Oh, if you get depressed, there's people you can talk to that can help you to feel better. But then you find out those people aren't doing it because they actually care, want to get to know you and, you know, play an active role in stopping you from feeling depressed or sad. No, they just want to feel better about themselves. Which again, they have a right to do, but I also have a right to be disgusted by that, because I think there should be a better motive than just, you know, oh, let me have a surface level discussion with someone about their issues and then never speak to them again. It makes this stuff even more so sad and disturbing when some services require payment just to actually speak with them about your problems, when in reality they don't actually care. Yeah. Imagine having to pay somebody to talk to you, and people don't think that's insane. Hell, you don't even have to pay celebrities to speak to them if you think about it. They go to conventions and premieres of movies, sign autographs, shake your hand. But I don't. It's like, who the hell is this person to where I have to pay them to speak to me? They're not famous. They're not an actor. That, like, just to talk about something that. But you might as well just go and speak to a damn mirror. At least then you can look at yourself and question why things got this bad. God, I like. That's why I said this is an era of lies, of fakeness, of just complete phony baloney. That's all it is. Just people trying to trick you into thinking they care about you and doing these different things to show that's anything but the case. And it's really reflected in almost everything you do now. Like if you talk to chicks, a lot of them, we've been over this before. They will speak to you, they'll make it sound like they're interested in you. Give it a week or two, you barely hear a word from them. And it's always, I'm busy. That's why I can't write one message back to you. That's why I can't schedule a phone call with you. Just so busy. God, like, and it's why I said that, like, no wonder you can't get a date, because chicks don't care about anyone but themselves. Same thing with these people, these clowns running that hotline. Everything these people do that looks like it's doing some type of favor for you is always more beneficial to them than to yourself. And I'll always remember when I was 15, just like being depressed and wanting to speak to somebody, and like now I really have no interest in ever speaking about that type of stuff to any of these people again, you know. And it's not because I don't still get depressed or anything. It's because I know it's a joke. It's just like a scam, you know. It's so funny how people want you to believe in like this goodness of others, but I just can't when I see stuff like that. So they can keep running their little goofy, crappy service of pretending to care about people, and I'll just keep ignoring them. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the stream, Megumi. Morbius Merchant was here earlier. Make sure, Megumi, that before next weekend, you get your digital copy of Morbius when it comes out on May 17th. I know you've been really clamoring to see this film. It's considered one of the greatest movies of all time. So really want to make sure you go and pick it up. And I'll be doing another stream this Monday. So have a good rest of your weekend.